There's 5 of us, so my siblings and I, my mom and dad, and they knew that eventually we were gonna leave. But the question here is who's gonna go and when. It was a difficult time for a lot of folks, right? You know, you're faced with 2 decisions. One is to stay and deal with the communists who supposedly been trying to liberate the country, and 2 is to take on this journey, hoping that the U.S. and its allies are going to take you and accept you as you reach your various refugee camps. But it was not a cheap decision. There were a lot of things that you had to cover, meaning you had to pay for your ticket. There are recruiters, you know, there are boat builders. You got to connect with folks, and many of those trips didn't make it anywhere. You know, something got disconnected, you got caught somehow along the way. But the one time that we actually made it out to the middle of the ocean, our engine stopped. And one of the things that you worry about in being out there is, you know, obviously the weather factor, but also pirates, Thai pirates. Many cases of, you know, them attacking boats, refugee boats, and attacking the men and raping the women, and so things like that really wreak havoc. You know, there are folks that came with everything, pot pans and everything you can think of. There are folks that came with nothing, with shirts and a t-shirt, with no family members. There are people went with big families. So that was my realization that, okay, this is the refugee camp now. So, you know, you can see it was a difficult time, and I, as a 7, 8, 9 years old kid, having to learn to be strong enough to deal with those the folks that are not exactly friendly to you. We got here in 84, not knowing anything about California and America. I just remember, you know, when we got to Sacramento, just the cold weather and the lights and just, you know, Western life, you know, California, America. We all want, you know, to live in a place where we feel comfortable and be accepted. At the same time, when the conditions, war happens, and you're forced to move, you know, our hands are in the hands of others. But now we're talking about, you know, 30-some years ago, and just to see how crazy it was, how things, if you do small little stuff, they will fall in place. And our family was lucky. I think we have the kind of blessings that we came here in 83, 84. Stockton Boulevard was nothing but just, I think, dilapidated buildings. And when Council Member Kevin McCarty came and said, hey, what about making this into Little Saigon, you know, making this a place where we want to acknowledge the diversity of this area, but also the success and the accomplishment of the Vietnamese community, and recognizing that all this great accomplishment from people of my generation, from those in the previous generation who built Stockton Boulevard area, you know, the shopping mall and the grocery stores and the tax offices. What it was like 20, 30 years ago when none of this was there, and they didn't speak English, they didn't understand the system, they just knew that they needed to work hard. So I think, you know, that was a legacy that I wanted to think about when I think about the Vietnamese refugee. And I think when you go drive to 99 and see the highway sign that says, welcome to Little Saigon, and see how diverse and integrated and connected everyone is, and just sense of atmosphere and enjoyment, not just the good food and the friends, but the culture. That to me is the legacy that I think that we should focus on as well.
These personal Vietnam War stories are made possible by these sponsors.